Imagine the NAACP, this organization founded in 1909 to fight Jim Crow. Imagine them refusing an invitation to the sitting president. Why would they do that? Well, it's because Donald Trump is the one man who would rip the veil off their melanated Marxist sham. Coming up, why the NAACP doesn't want Trump at their convention and what they are terrified that he'll reveal. Also coming up, we're going to do a reaction to Stephen A. Smith, who disagrees with the NAACP's decision. Let's go. You guys, welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and today, y'all, we're going to be exposing the custodians of chaos masquerading as the NAACP. Now, the NAACP, they claim that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, but the truth is that Donald Trump is the only one bold enough to shine a light on their anti-Black, anti-American Marxist agenda. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. First, what I want to do is I want to expose the NAACP's partisan sham. For 116 years, the NAACP has invited every president to their convention. Every president, Republican, Democrat, you name it, until now. Now, if you listen to their reasons why, these people really believe that people are stupid.
And the NAACP leaders are not inviting the sitting president to its next national convention, slated for next month here in Charlotte. Organization's president says the decision has nothing to do with political parties. Derek Johnson says President Trump is working against their mission.
For the first time in 116 years, we will not be inviting the President of the United States. There is a conflict with the things that he has done, that he's doing, and things that are being planned with our job.
The group has filed several lawsuits against the Trump administration in recent months tied to the president's moves to end diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in schools.
Now, to be clear, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. So the NAACP, their claim is that Donald Trump's executive orders supposedly oppose civil rights. Mind you, you'll never hear any representative of the NAACP winsomely articulate which order of his opposes civil rights. If you understood, the NAACP, they use the term civil rights. That's their dog whistle that is supposed to make Black folks quiver in their boots. Oh, Lord, he's coming for the rats, right? When you say, oh, he's attacking civil rights, that is supposed to put us on defense, make us afraid, and then scatter for the hills. But civil rights is the question. Okay, if that is the case, has anybody asked them to prove it? Like, which executive order, right? Like, I mean, how much time do y'all have? Because if I need to, we can go through the executive orders to prove just how much the NAACP lies to keep Black people subjugated. I won't go through all of them, but I'll go through the main ones that I think they may be talking about. President Derek Johnson, he's the president of the NAACP. He made a very dramatic claim. His assertion is that Trump signed unconstitutional executive orders to oppose voters and to undo civil rights protections. Just makes this assertion. Notice, though, Mr. Johnson never provides any specifics. He never offers any evidence. But there's a reason for that. So let's go ahead. And examine executive orders actually signed that the progressives often point to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see if they genuinely violate civil rights or if they, in fact, uphold civil rights. Let's look at this is the hot topic on everybody's radar. Let's look at border security and immigration enforcement. One of his most controversial order was Executive Order 13767, which enhanced border security. Now, critics, including the NAACP, they painted this as racist. You know, this is xenophobic. But here's what I'd like for you guys to consider. One, civil rights protect the constitutional liberties of American citizens, irrespective of color. So we can just deal with it on its face value right there. Civil rights protects constitutional liberties of American citizens, not illegals. Okay. Number two, Trump's border policy specifically targeted illegal entry. Right? Not any particular race or ethnicity, but particularly illegal entry from our southern border, which includes people from all kinds of different places. And I'd like to note that when we secure our border, you guys, I don't understand how an organization that claims to be all about the blacks, you know, the pro-blackity blacks, how is securing our border harmful to Black people when securing our border actually protects minority workers, including Black Americans, and it protects us in a myriad of ways. But for one, wage suppression caused by illegal labor absolutely impacts Black Americans. Yes, the Black jobs, which is any job on the spectrum that is either skilled labor or low skilled labor or no skilled labor, those illegal immigrants actually suppress labor. If anything, this order, it defends civil rights, and the goal is to ensure that there's economic fairness and rule of law. So wage suppression caused by illegal labor absolutely impacts Black people. So you would think that the NAACP would be pro closed borders, but they're not. The second executive order I'd like to discuss, President Trump banned critical race theory, CRT, in federal training. That was Executive Order 13950. Now, when we examine this, what it did was it prohibited CRT, critical race theory type training in federal workplaces. Now, the critics, they're screaming racism. However, when we examine this, CRT promoted racial division, right? It categorized Americans by skin color and then brands individuals as inherently oppressive or oppressed based solely on their race. So banning CRT is not a violation of civil rights. It actually restores civil rights by reaffirming that we are all equal under the law, right? Equality of the law. That's consistent with the melanated Marxist Dr. King's vision of judging people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. However, I would like to note that I don't mind being judged by the color of my skin. Why? Because the color of my skin gives you no indication to my character, my essence, or my worth, my skill set, my talent, or my ability. So I dare you to judge me by the color of my skin. Underestimate me at your own peril. Banning CRT, what many people don't realize, that is not a violation of civil rights. Like, you may be a proponent of CRT, but what CRT, when we ban it in federal training, that is not a violation of civil rights. It actually restores civil rights. And the goal is because it reaffirms equality under the law. Okay? When you judge a person based on their merit, not by an existential reality such as the color of their skin, you actually have actual justice and you uphold equality under the law. So in order to ensure that there are no federal employees that are coerced into racist indoctrination, it was necessary to defend their civil rights to freedom of conscience and equality. So far, we've examined 2 executive orders which already dismantled their claims that he is a threat to democracy and to voter rights and voter suppression and civil rights. I don't even think they thought through this statement what they did was they just made the assertion. They made the assertion, and then they're not expecting anyone to think through or to challenge it. Number 3, let's look at protecting women's sports and defining biological sex. So Trump, under his Department of Education, they clarified Title IX guidelines to ensure that biological males cannot unfairly compete in women's sports. Now, critics labeled this anti-trans, suggesting that it violated civil rights. But if we actually unpack Title IX, Title IX was created to explicitly guarantee equal opportunities for women. Okay? So allowing biological men into women's sports systematically strips those opportunities away from those biological women. So the Trump administration stance had nothing to do with discrimination. It was about fairness. Protecting women athletes, their right to compete fairly, is precisely preserving civil rights, not violating them. Let's also look at his DEI reforms, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Donald Trump, he scaled back on the DEI mandates, and this was portrayed as some sort of attack on civil rights. But the inconvenient truth of the matter is that the DEI policies, which overwhelmingly benefited everybody else except Black people, it prioritized race-based outcomes over individual merit, which is fundamentally unconstitutional. So eliminating race-based quotas and the discrimination, it protects the civil rights of every American, preventing the government from violating the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, NAACP. So rather than attacking civil rights, this particular executive order preserved true equality and individual liberty. So to sum it all up, why the NAACP is avoiding the specifics, it's because they simply toss around the loaded term civil rights because they want to inflame racial division without any evidence. And because if they actually had to prove Trump's orders violated civil rights, they know that they would fail miserably. And plus, they think Black people are stupid. So every single executive order that Donald Trump signed on these topics aligns with constitutional principles. It upholds civil rights. It protects individual freedoms, and it ensures equal opportunity under the law. The real violation of civil rights would be to allow these custodians of chaos at the NAACP and the Democrat Party to continue dividing Americans by race, gender, and victimhood, fundamentally tearing down the very foundation of equality that our Constitution guarantees. The NAACP, y'all, they don't want Donald Trump anywhere near their stage because the moment he speaks, their false narratives are going to collapse. His presence there alone, it would force them to confront the truth that for decades, they've been hiding from the fact that they're not fighting for civil rights. They're exploiting civil rights for partisan gain. They are in the back pocket of the Democratic Party because if they truly cared about Black lives, they would do a whole lot of things different. Oh, they would be moving very different. For one, they champion school choice. Why? Education reform empowers families. They know that Black children are overwhelmingly stuck in failing schools, and they actively oppose school choice. They don't want you to have the choice to send your child to a better school. They don't want education competition. They need your child just as dumb and uninformed as possible, because a dumb, uninformed child becomes a dumb, uninformed adult. And a dumb, uninformed adult ultimately is easily to be manipulated and easily controlled. They don't champion school choice, and that is one of the main things that I believe that if Donald Trump were at that convention, he would ask them, why are you guys fighting me on school choice? What is it about giving children the opportunity, if they choose, to be educated in an environment and in a school that best suits them? Why is it that you won't allow that. They also don't want him on that stage because they know he'd expose Planned Parenthood's racist abortion mills. You know, those clinics that's overwhelmingly in Black communities. They don't want him up there because he'd be like, listen, I'm just trying to understand. I thought the goal was to increase the numbers of the Black population, but because y'all are in bed with the Planned Parenthood, how are Black lives mattering if y'all won't even protect the vulnerable ones in the womb? Why y'all letting this racist organization started by Margaret Sanger make a fool out of y'all and cause your own people to exterminate themselves? Why would y'all do that? See, they can't have Trump talking like that on their stage, so Trump can't come. Another thing that Trump would probably call out, he would probably emphasize to back a closed border, which protects low-income Black workers from wage-suppressing labor. He would probably ask them, why won't you support a closed border? You know that low-income Black workers are actively being violated due to these wage-suppressing labor tactics. You should be supporting a closed border. You should not want your taxpayer dollars being given to a demographic that's, one, not a citizen, didn't earn it, didn't contribute to it at all, and you guys were here first. Why would you support an open border? So, of course, no. Donald Trump can't come to the NAACP convention because he might call him out on that. He also, I don't know if he's this bold, but he might call him out on the fact that, why don't you guys defend the heteronormative nuclear family? I always was told, based on all the Black people I used to hang around, before y'all start calling me racist, that the bedrock of a stable community is a family. And the Black family is in shambles right now. Why on earth are you guys caping harder for the LGBTQ agenda than you do for restoring the Black family, right? Instead, what the NAACP is out here doing, they spend more time waging a culture war with travel bans and virtue signaling on LGBTQ matters, ignoring the actual real crises that are ravaging Black families. So here is my one key assertion. The NAACP is nothing more than an ineffective agitation front group for the Democrat Party. They are anti-white by design, they are pro-Democrat by mandate, and they are absolutely anti-Black whenever actual policies matter. Why did you see them make a big deal over one Black track runner hitting another Black track runner over the head and then trying to make that racist? It's because they are so irrelevant. They are so irrelevant that they have to go around manufacturing outrage. We have issues that are absolutely pressing in the Black community, but instead we out here worried about two little Black girls that in a friendly competition, it turned left and we can't prove who hit who upside the head. Doesn't even matter. No, but NAACP got involved in that. So here's what I want to do now. I want to talk a little bit about the NAACP's, their Marxist hypocrisy, right? Did you know that the NAACP's origin story includes ties to socialist agitators? Did you know that? Did you know that they've always flirted with Marxist rhetoric? And then what they do is, all they've done now is, what I'll say, is they've pivoted to the big money Democrat donors, which is the freak nasty ones, the Diddycrats. That's why you see all the LGBT sexual perversion and the baby murder. That's on the forefront of what the NAACP wants to push. Their conference theme, I thought it was interesting, is called The Fierce Urgency of Now. Oh, it sounds noble, doesn't it? It sounds oh so noble. But my question is, urgency for whom? Not single mothers trapped in welfare dependency. Is there any sort of urgency for that? What about the Black entrepreneurs that are drowning in regulatory red tape and dealing with the backlash of Jamal Bryant's stupid boycott? No. The urgency of the NAACP is to maintain Democrat power at all costs. That's their urgency. They're like, it's urgent. The blacks are jumping ship. We are doing all that we can. We are pulling out our best stuff, and they're still defecting. They're still running off the plantation, going to function in their freedom. That's their urgency that is expedient right now. But here, you don't have to take my word for it. I want to react to Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith here is having a rare moment of clarity, and I just thought that we should point it out that these broken clocks that are right twice a day, this is one of those times. And to be fair, I think what's happening with Stephen A. Smith is not that he's not stupid. What he is actually trying to do is he is trying to woo his primarily black audience over to more conservative leaning issues because he recognizes the sinking ship known as the Democrat Party. He knows it's sinking. He's been incredibly critical of Democrats lately. And so I think that's what we're watching. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to do a reaction to recent statements where Stephen A. Smith is actually reprimanding the NAACP for ignoring Trump. So let's take a listen.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show. Now let's get to the NAACP and two headlines linked to the civil rights organization. The first involves President Donald Trump. The organization announced they will not invite the president to their national convention next month in Charlotte, North Carolina. This would mark the first time the NAACP has opted to exclude a sitting president in its 116-year history. NAACP President Derek Johnson announced the move during a press conference, accusing Trump of working against its mission. Here's a portion of what Johnson had to say. Quote, "This has nothing to do with political party. Our mission is to advance civil rights. And the current president has made clear that his mission is to eliminate civil rights." End quote. The NAACP has filed multiple lawsuits against Trump in the last few months, including suing to stop the Department of Education from withholding federal money for schools that did not end DEI programs, arguing the department was prohibiting legal efforts to provide equal opportunity to black students. First things first, respect to Derek Johnson. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't agree, respectfully. I don't agree that this was the right decision to make. Number one, let's stop associating DEI with black people. When you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we all know that the biggest beneficiaries of DEI has been white women. And we all know that folks associate DEI with individuals who weren't qualified but were just giving an opportunity so a place could be diverse. And that's not what I would classify us as, and I'm certain that you wouldn't either, Mr. Johnson. So that's number one. Number two, here's where my reticence really comes in. Why not let the 47th President of the United States come and address the NAACP convention? Why not give Donald Trump a chance to sit before your audience, your constituents, and explain exactly what he's doing and why? Why not let him do that? Why not let him stand before the very people whose lives he's purported to have had a profound effect upon with some of his decisions and let him explain what is it that he's doing and why? When we talk about the Department of Education, again, we all understand that our students need all the help that we can get, especially in the public schools. There's no question about that. Federal funding is essential, and we understand that. But at some point in time, don't we have an obligation to look at exactly what the Education Department has done and whether or not it has served to benefit our community, as in the black community, along with various communities throughout this country, the United States of America? Do we just write a check and automatically give it to people, taxpayer dollars to people, without deciphering how well they do their jobs? Are we not allowed to probe and to look at them? And it's
No. Bless his heart. Bless his little thumping gizzard. Oh, listen, y'all. The sarcasm is gonna be it's gonna be on 10 right now, because what Stephen A doesn't understand is that the NAACP cannot have Donald Trump there to actually give an account for what he's doing, because if he actually gave an account for what he was doing, too many people would wake up. If he actually gave an account for what he was doing, too many people would wake up. Too many people would wake up. They'd actually hear straight from the horse's mouth, be like, wait a minute. What they're saying is not computing with what he's saying, and somebody here is lying. They cannot have that. They can't have that. Here's the real scoop, Stephen A. This one I'm going to give you for free. The NAACP, they can't invite Trump because he would destroy their narrative live on stage. Trump is notorious for calling out the phony, right? Do y'all remember when Trump broke the internet on Kamala Harris at the NABJ? Do y'all remember that? When he was like, wait a minute, since when is Kamala black? Now, all of us had been saying that out loud, but Donald Trump in real time did not bite his tongue, and he absolutely confronted those journalists like, y'all know she been identifying as an Indian all this time. I was today years old when I discovered she was black. Who knew? That was Donald Trump, and I effectively believe that that's when Kamala Harris lost. Like, at that point, it was the nail in the coffin between that and him connecting the fact that she want to spend our money to pay for gender reassignment surgery in the military. Between those two things, that did it. Y'all know Donald Trump done pull punches. He will highlight their inaction on school choice. He will call out the hypocrisy of their support for Planned Parenthood. He will absolutely economically break down how a lack of a secure border impacts the Black community. And he might, as a bonus, talk about how this LGBT trans agenda absolutely is an assault on family values, and the Black community don't need any help in that area. They don't need no help in that area. When I say we don't need help in that area, we don't need another agenda that is going to help push us further into depravity in that area. And that is absolutely what the rainbow agenda does. This is what terrifies President Derek Johnson of the NAACP and all of the high priests of hypocrisy that run all those funky little chapters. They cannot have Donald Trump speak for himself in his own words. Why? What would Trump expose? Trump would absolutely expose their lack of support for school choice. And he'll say, why won't you back vouchers? You talk civil rights, but you block the key to educational equity because y'all won't support school choice. Why is that? Why is that? And this is what you'll hear. You'll get the crickets. You'll get the crickets, and they'll be fumbling and bumbling and they ain't gonna have nothing to say about that. When it comes to Planned Parenthood, Donald Trump might be like, listen, why are you silent while more Black babies are being aborted now more than any other group? How is that civil rights? I'm trying to protect the life in the womb. I thought Black Lives Matter. Why can't we come to the table and at least agree that your community is beyond the rate of replacement? Can we at least acknowledge that? No, they ain't gonna be able to do that. Then don't let him get talking about border security. He's going to be like, wait a minute. You fight voter suppression, yet you ignore the wage suppression of the unchecked immigration labor, and you support the party that doesn't even believe in a democratic election process. He's going to be like, why did y'all let Sleepy Joe tell you that you weren't even Black if you didn't know whether you was for me or for him? That you didn't know what side of the bread your butter was buttered on. And all y'all did was sit there and say, yes, boss. Right? Like, I could see Donald Trump just expose their silence on the breakdown of the Black family and just be like, this is so, just, it's deafening. Why is it that y'all would rather virtue signal for the alphabet agenda than to champion the nuclear family? Y'all, that is the fierce urgency that Donald Trump would bring if he were invited. And that's just too much like uncomfortable for the NAACP. They cannot handle that. So why won't the NAACP invite Trump? It's because their whole house of cards would collapse under his spotlight. He's the one man who would drag their Marxist roots and their Democrat allegiances into the daylight, exposing them as the irrelevant anti-Black agitation front group that they are. And they cannot have that. They cannot have that. And so the best way to avoid that kind of scrutiny is be like, well, no, he can't come. I know we've extended invitations to so many other racist presidents who actually had racist policies, and then we continue to encourage people to vote for this same racist party. But this time, no, the party of emancipation and freedom and liberty and justice for all, we can't invite that president because he will expose the grift that we got going on, and we can't have that. So my question is, what do you guys think? Is Stephen A. asking some good questions? Or is Stephen A. asking a rhetorical question that I have already answered? I've already broken down why they can't do it. Like, he thinks that they're doing it because they actually believe that he's racist and all this other. That is not it. First of all, that was the most least substantive answer that the president of the NAACP could have provided, but he had to say something. And because they know that people are not going to question them, they're not going to push back, they're not going to be like, well, which executive orders? Can we talk about those? Why won't you hold his feet to the fire and hold him accountable? Come to the convention with the exact executive orders that you believe violate civil rights and voter suppression, allegedly, and why not hold him accountable, or at least confront him? But they can't do that. They can't do that. So listen, I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? I want you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this video, share with friends who need the unfiltered truth, and leave me a comment below to let me know if you think it was a good move for the NAACP not to invite Donald Trump, or if you think it was a bad move and a missed opportunity for them to not invite Donald Trump. But whatever you guys think, stay bold, stand firm, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and